everyone. This is Jason Fraser. I'm excited to bring to you the next episode of Blueblood on the Mainline. We have a great interview with Randy Foye that we will listen to shortly. However, before doing so, let's talk with Austin Render to talk about Villanova basketball with the start this season. Austin, let's talk about the things that the people at home wants to know about Villanova basketball.
Yeah, let's kind of start off with the season that it's been. Jason, you obviously played for Villanova. You know how the system works. You know how Wright works. What have you seen here in the first couple of weeks that has you optimistic about the season to come?
It's a few things, Austin. One, the team started off the season pretty well with two big victories, if you ask me, because that BC team is going to prove to be a very, very, very tough squad. Everyone's going to understand that. They're gonna find that out. And with that being the start, that was important to me. And a ranked ASU squad, and we did have a tough loss after that. However, the team was able to rebound. So what I'm saying is there are certain core principles with Villanova basketball that once you hit those markers, if you will, you know you're going to have favorable outcomes. And number one, that's paying attention to detail. Number two, being committed to the way you play for one another. And then doing that at a high level. Now, in the midst of all of that, considering that this is the beginning of the season, the level of play that the team has been exercising, considering all of that, you take into the fact that how do you respond once you suffer a loss? If you respond well the next time out, that lets you know the track that you're on. If you don't, it's kind of alarming because then it starts to bring into question, was the previous success fool's gold? And what we've seen with Villanova, that's not the case. Because even though Texas at this moment is not ranked, Texas is going to be very good this year. As we all know, Coach Smart was on a hot seat last year, and he came back with a strong squad this year with a very strong start. I think actually, if I didn't say it already, it's their best start in the last 6 years. So these wins, for me, specifically the BC and Texas win, are going to prove to be much better with time in this season, as everyone will see eventually.
Yeah, that's a Texas team that's really good. They're really long at the guard position. What did you see in that game? Obviously, you talked about the bounce back effect and how important that was. What did you see on the court that helped Villanova win that game?
All right, it's two elements that I saw. Conceptually speaking, you had your senior leadership, or your upperclassmen at the very least. You had your upperclassmen. You had Colin. And then you had Samuels, who I'm a fan of Samuels. I'm a fan of them all. But being that he's at the end of the road and this is the last go around, it's very important to play the right way, because you understand that teams are going to narrow in on Colin because of his leadership, because of his ability on the offensive end. And then you have Jeremiah, right? Who they're both going to perform very well, right? Now, with that being said, in Samuel's position, he's more like the X factor, because there's again, in the games, you're going to have the people that you narrow in on, but are you going to have the extra senior leadership? Or are you going to have that person who's going to make consistent winning plays? And that's what he does. I think he's much more capable offensively than what has been shown or what has been seen, but that's not out of error. That's not out of lack of effort. I think that's by design. The way Villanova basketball is, it's how do we play the best way to yield the results for us to win games and to play together as a team. And I think he has bought into that. And that's something that Coach Wright does a great job in. So you had the senior leadership, and then you had your younger players playing very well. And as we know, again, you look at that game, who hit the big free throws at the end of the game? Senior, right? You had your leaders do that. You had your upperclassmen hitting the big free throws, getting the big rebounds. And then you had your younger players scoring and doing the other little things. But what's going to win games in the end of the season, when it's tournament play, is who are going to be the individuals to make the right plays and make the least mistakes. And Villanova have that. They have the young guys playing the right way, and they have the old guys finishing and doing the right things.
I feel like that's always a staple of Villanova basketball, the smart plays, especially even from the younger players. You were a big man in this Villanova system. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl has been fantastic to start this season. We had him on the podcast a couple weeks ago. Other than us giving him the podcast bump, what else has helped him be that star player that Villanova needed down low?
I think the answer to that question is seen in the interview. When asking him about how do you feel about Villanova, what separates it, he simply, not to sound redundant, not to be cliche, he believes in playing the Villanova way, which is being solid and fundamentally sound. And I think there's no, we see that he can hit the ball, he can stretch the floor a little bit. He can score down low. He could put the ball on the floor. And going into this year, I don't think it's something that we saw where we're saying, oh my gosh, he is shooting amazing from threes. Or, oh my gosh, he is finishing, now he's dunking more around the rim. It's more so he's doing the same things, but better. He's refining his game and he's becoming more and more of a pro. So that's what I think the big difference between last year and this year is. He's, in some ways, he's more efficient or he's more decisive in his decision-making on what to do offensively and defensively as well.
Last question, and I know that we talked about this before we got on here. What is it like watching this team and watching Villanova basketball as a former player, as an alum of Villanova, someone who has been through this before? What's it like now being, and you've had this for a while now, you've been in that viewer's seat now
Right.
of Jay Wright and Villanova basketball. What is that like?
It's exciting. It's very exciting. And it's fun is the word I should say. Unlike other experiences that I hear, because I'm not alumni from any other school, college, or university, instead of it looking as you're looking at your team play that you used to go to and guys that you know of, you truly feel a part of them. There's an extension, and it's two big elements. Number one, Coach Wright is still there. The program that he implemented is the one that my class helped establish. We were the first full recruiting class. So you start to see the same exact plays on certain during crunch time. You start to see the same types of defense and offense. And what it is, you're looking at these things and you're reading it and you know what the players should do and you know what options that they have, and you're excited that they're executing it and that they're doing it the right way. And the biggest draw or the biggest attachment, if you will, as alumni, there's a saying at Villanova, we play for those who came before us. So everything that you do, everything that you work to establish, the parts that are unfinished or the parts that you did pretty well and you feel like you did the job well done, you want to see that extended, and you want to see that you want to see an acceleration and a progression of that. And I think that's what it feels like as alumni. You're watching a progression of the work that you put in, and you get to see the development of the plays that's there. So you think about this again. I'm telling you right now, Samuels is going to be watching this. He's going to be watching not only this podcast, but he's going to be watching players as an alumni in a very short time. And for the years to come, he's going to think about the sacrifices that he took. He's going to think about the parts of his game that he didn't selfishly said, I want to be about me. And he knows that he's doing it right now to win. And when he continues to establish and continues to continue the legacy of the tradition of the program, once he sees another player fulfill that role, or once he sees another player being selfless and giving up for the greater good, it makes the sacrifices that he did all the more worthwhile. And I think as alumni, everyone in their particular role and their particular sacrifices, what they did as a team while they were playing, I think that's the gratification that they get watching these guys play.
You mentioned that first recruiting class that also included our guest on today's show, Randy Foye. You want to tease a little bit about what the people are going to hear from Mr. Foye in this upcoming episode?
You're going to hear great stories of, again, establishing a program. And Randy became that first go-to guy. You know, we had a lot of talented guys on the team, but we were trying to figure out the identity of Villanova, and which developed into strong guard play with solid big men that are talented, that are highlighted as well. And Randy pretty much started that. You had Curtis Sumter, who was that prototypical Villanova player where he's positionless and he could do multiple different things offensively as well as defensively. But he got hurt. Alan Ray was a great shooter, but Randy became that first guy that what we are accustomed to looking at when it comes to Villanova. A guard who can play point, who can play on the ball, off the ball, but then defensively, he was capable of guarding guys a lot bigger, a lot longer than he was, which gave us an advantage offensively, because then now you had guys who were freaks of nature, who were very talented, but playing out of position defensively, which then allowed us to have the upper hand in the long run.
Well, I know everyone else is excited. Let's get to that interview with Randy Foye, your former teammate, former Villanova Wildcat. A great interview coming up here on Blueblood on the Mainline.
Yes, I'm excited for everyone to hear our conversation, and also for everyone just to go down memory lane and also get a little insight on the program as it is today, as well as the building blocks and what it took to get there. So again, everybody, if you haven't, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, let us know what you think. And we look forward to continue to build with one another as we all represent Villanova basketball and the sport that we love. And I always say, once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. V's up, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you someone who's my dear friend. I look at him like a brother. We were a part of the same recruiting class, 11-year NBA veteran, great basketball player, but even a greater person, and even more, a great father and husband, and individual, a pillar of the community, Randy Foye. Welcome to Blueblood on the Mainline. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
It was great. So, hey, part of the same recruiting class, you know, we've known each other for a long time now, a long time. Yeah. So what we can touch on, which is personally to one another, is like that Villanova branding and everything. But before we get there, here it is. We're in high school, and everyone gets into the rankings and everything else. And I remember playing with Curtis Sumter, another Villanova great. Alan Ray had a one stint with us with ISA, but it was mainly me and Kurt. And I remember my breaking point with you was saying, like, who is this guy? We played against you a couple of times, but we played against you in Jersey one time. And remember that overtime game where we were down 4 points, and Kurt got fouled. He hit the first free throw, he missed. I grabbed the rebound, threw it back out to Kurt, he hit a three. And then it still wasn't enough because you went ham in overtime. You know,
was that Jersey? Was that in Jersey, or was that a?
Was that Gauchos?
I think it was the Gauchos when and then I got fouled at the end of overtime.
Yes.
That was the guy.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember that game, and that was my moment. You know, officially, like no one could tell me different. I said, I'm big on always proving people wrong, because I always had a chip on my shoulder in life and in sports. But for me and Kurt, and I remember us talking about you after that game, it was like a newfound or heightened respect that we had for you. And there was no separation. Forget about ranking and everything. There's no separation from you or anybody else in my book and in my eyes.
Yeah.
And then, so share with everyone with we ended up being Coach Wright's first full recruiting class. Him going through a full recruiting season. And here it is, you know, it's me, you, Kurt, A-Ray, and then, you know, Mikey walked on and Baker. And share like your perspective of that whole experience of playing AAU, playing basketball, meeting us, and then going to school.
Yeah, I think, well, first and foremost, thanks, you know, having me on. I appreciate it. You know, me and you, roommates, freshman year. It's bigger than basketball. It goes elsewhere. You know, phone calls, text messages, checking on each other all the time to this day. But I just want to say thanks for having me on. But the way it all started was, I can remember you guys with the Long Island Panthers. I would say my probably like my junior year, probably like into sophomore junior year, I started hearing a lot about, you know, Jay Frey and you know, Curtis Sumter, and you know, New York, and just in our area during that time, the New York scene was bigger in basketball than New Jersey. New Jersey has some really, really good players, but you know, you want to go to the Gauchos and do work. You know, when you play against Riverside Church, you want to do work. When you play against the Long Island Panthers, you want to do work. You know, and I look back from the Talik Browns to the Omar Cooks and the Kenny Saddlefield. So I always looked up to those guys, right? Along with New Jersey players. So wherever I went, especially when I went to New York, I always wanted to put on a show, right? And so we ended up playing you guys in a championship. And I can remember, I know you were like either 1 or 2 in the country. I knew Kurt was ranked higher than me. And I knew you had a guy on your team that, you know, we were neck and neck in New Jersey, which was
Taekwondo. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people would compare. Some people would say he was better, and then some people would say I was better. But I always wanted, I was like you, I had a chip on my shoulder. I was from a tough place, like probably one of the toughest places in Jersey to grow up in. And I always had that little silent, that killer assassin, you know, mentality when we played anybody who was ranked higher. I really wouldn't say nothing like talking, but deep down inside, like I wanted to basically take you off the earth when we was on the court. And I can remember it was nothing against you. It was nothing against Kurt, but it was like, it was all against him. And I think that game I ended up probably having like 40 plus points because I just wanted to prove that I was the best in Jersey. Like I really didn't care about what was going on in the city or New York City or what was going on in New York State. I just wanted to prove to him that no matter, you know, where you go or what you think, you know, I'm gonna be here every single time and I'm gonna give you buckets. So I think where a lot of that animosity and extra energy stem from me just wanting to be so dominant over him. But that opened my eyes to Villanova because I had Florida, I had Cincinnati with you know, with Kenyon Martin and them guys just leaving and that opening up, and Kenny Saddlefield being the same type of guard there. Cincinnati opened up. Florida was there. Duke was there. Sean Dockery and those guys like didn't go. Like a lot of schools were there, but when I saw your top 5, and then I knew who you were, I knew who Kurt was, and then that's when everything started to, you know, kind of fall into place. It's like, well, if a shooting guard is going to Villanova and Allen Ray, and small forward is going, and then Jay Frey might go as a center, I can fill this void of the point guard, you know, because I can dribble and I can score. So that's how I was thinking of it. And then when I saw you play, and you know me from just playing with me, I was offensive minded. And when I saw you were defensive minded and all you cared about was blocking shots, rebounding, and running the floor, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm going to Nova. And then I had that conversation with Coach Hill, and it just made my decision a lot easier. A big part of my decision to go to Villanova was because of you, Curtis, and Allen Ray. That was a big part of it because I played against Allen in Connecticut, and I played against you and Curtis in New York. So just playing against you guys, I can tell right away that none of our games were the same. Me and Allen is the closest, but none of our games were the same. And I can tell that, we all, would benefit each other if we decided to go to Villanova.
So, what a lot of people share with everyone from your perspective, your experience, because we bonded because we were roommates, and there's something about being in the same room, sharing the same space. And I always tell people, there was a student today that I said, I have a friend like you, Randy Foye. And it was funny because she ain't even into sports. It was because I teach, and I spoke to the student, and I said that because she's very quiet, around people she don't know. And then she becomes this social butterfly when she's just around all friends. And it was beautiful seeing you from freshman year and how quiet you were to just seeing the real Randy and how intelligent and how relatable and just how social you really were, your personality, how funny. People don't realize it's quite sure you're a funny guy. You're a real funny guy.
Yeah, and I only let that side of me out when I'm around people who I know and who I feel comfortable around. But I just think it was my upbringing, man. I always had to be socially conscious of who I was around, because I was around some tough people, man. That a lot of my friends that I grew up with, either they are in jail or they're dead. A lot of people my age that I grew up with that was really, really close friends with me. And I think that just always had me on edge around people. It wasn't that I was shy or quiet. I just was making sure that the people who were around me wasn't trying to harm me. And I know in the situation that we were in and going over, they wouldn't try to physically harm me, but mentally, or try to take advantage of the situation. Right. So that's why I'm like a sponge when I first meet, and I'm still like that to this day. When I first meet people, I observe. I let them talk. I talk a little, but I let them talk, and I kind of try to figure them out from a distance. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm wrong. But I always try to sit back, observe, and just go with my gut feeling with that person. And so that was me in college.
Right. You know what? There was two defining moments as coach was building the program back to what it is today. Two defining moments early on, that is. One, do you remember the practice when we practiced for a long time in terms of going up and down for hours nonstop, because we didn't know A-Ray was going to be A-Ray, meaning one of the greatest shooters in Villanova history. Gary Buchanan was their senior. Remember when both of them got hot in practice on opposing teams? And then he was like, you guys are going to play defense? And he said, if you guys are going to play defense, we're going to play till we get a stop. Then he said, Gary and A-Ray, don't you dare think about missing. Do you remember that?
Yeah, they just kept shooting. They just kept shooting. The one thing I loved about, I think if those guys like Gary, Rick, Sully, Snow, if they would have had Coach Wright at an earlier, let's say 2 years prior, they would have been really successful. Not saying that they weren't successful, because
no, I hear you.
Yeah, just in general, making it to, become a D1 athlete, that's it's probably thousands of kids that would die for that. But they were super successful getting there, but just at that level in the Big East, winning in the Big East. I think if they would have had Coach Wright a couple years earlier, that they probably would have had the same success, or they probably would have had the same success that we would have had. But
Gary, I'll tell you what, Gary Buchanan, who I stay in touch with to this day, like how you and I stay in touch, G and I always talk. G would have been, he definitely would have been a pro for
years. Been a pro. The way he shot the ball, he was ahead of his time. The way G was shooting the ball, he was shooting it, he was flying off the screens, and no disrespect to Klay Thompson or no disrespect to Gary Buchanan, but he was flying off the screens, letting that thing go.
Yeah.
And I know Klay Thompson is a 3-time champ, and he's a 6'6", 6'7", and he's a hell of a player. But G was flying off of screens, and I never seen nothing
Yeah.
like that. Like me coming from where I'm from, where you see someone with a crazy handle, you like, man, he nice, but you never see the mixture of crazy handle with shot.
Right.
And and seeing Gary with that shot like that, I was like, wow, I never seen anything like that.
And then him and then again, a young A-Ray was showing a glimpse of what he was going to become.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. They were shooting right. Gary came and literally took 2 shots over half court twice and was like, bang.
Yeah.
And A-Ray went down to the hash mark and was like, oh yeah, bang. And it was just back and forth. So, now I'll move on to the second defining moment for me early on. There was a practice. You like distributing the ball and you like getting your teammates involved and scoring. But I remember this. Coach saw what you were going to become. And he knew that for us to reach the level that we got to reach to, you have to just take over. You have to selfishly look to score to unselfishly make the game easier for everybody else. Yeah. And we were in practice, and he said, Rand, why didn't you shoot the ball? I think you scored like 2-3 times in a row. And tell me, you got to remember this moment, because he said to you, if you don't shoot the next like 4 or 5 times right now, like we're running or something like that. And he said, well, until you keep shooting. Do you remember that? He told you, you better keep shooting. What's about that moment?
Remember he would never, like, I remember like having practices. I remember one practice this thing stands out to me. Is when we had, I think I did something. I think somebody missed a shot and I had like a tip dunk. And I remember afterwards, and it's like in that little sequence where it was like a little roller coaster, but not just me, but for all of us. And he said, stop deferring to other people. He's like, at this stage, he was like, dribbling, defending, rebounding, scoring. He's like, you have it all. Like, stop deferring. He's like, the more you are aggressive, the more you attack, the more you look to play Villanova basketball offensively and defensively, the better we're going to be. Mm-hmm. He was saying that to me from my like freshman year to sophomore year. And then I think in the sophomore year, I started to get it. Mm-hmm. I think something clicked when I hit the shot against Seton Hall. And I started to get it. And I noticed that every time I was super aggressive, that the game just flowed for, like Allen, Mike. I would set them up with threes. You guys, I would get you. I got so many highlights with you in it, with me driving, just dropping off to you and you dunking the ball. Right. Heard it, picking and popping, Will dunking. So I noticed that. And once I started doing that, I was like, oh, okay, I see what you mean now. Like I really couldn't picture it, or I didn't have that, that point, that I didn't have that view or that tunnel vision that he wanted me to have in the beginning, because I didn't see upperclassmen before me doing it.
Right.
So I had to create that tunnel. I had to create what a Villanova guard was under Jay Wright.
Right.
I had to create that. Me and Allen had to create that. Then Kyle Lowry had to follow me. Right. And then Mike Hardy was following us.
Right.
In those little moments, Coach would always come up to me and he would like kind of explain to me. He would explain to me that, the more aggressive I am, the easier it is for everyone. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, I live like to the NBA. Like I always had that saying in my head, shoot them up, sleep in the streets. Yeah. Like I don't care if I shoot 30 times and miss all 30. I don't care if I shoot 30 times and make all 30. Like I'm shooting the ball, because when I'm aggressive, like I feel free. When I'm tense, when I'm not aggressive, I feel tense and I have anxiety and I feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot of that, just play hard, be free, let it all hang out. I learned a lot. I learned all of it from Coach Wright. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I remember that feeling when it clicked for us junior year, where I felt, for me, I remember it was some point during junior year, and I said, man, I think we arrived. Like we starting to arrive. And, and the rest was history from there. And I remember the chemistry you talk about when we ran that weave on the top. and then they'll just place me and Kurt or me and Marcus, or Kurt would be there with you, Al, Kurt, or then we were really dangerous when it was you, Al, and Kyle. And you would get the ball. Sometimes they'll just throw it back to the wing instead of you coming across the middle. And I was just seal my man. Remember that? Just yell, go, go, go.
Yeah.
And you just break your man off and lay it up. I mean, it was good times, man. Like how did you feel? Like share with everyone our Sweet 16 run to officially put us back where we belong as a program, and then the Elite 8 run.
I think, and for me, I know you were, and I remember, I got a good story for you, but I think it was the end of sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
I can recall Allen, getting stops, diving on the floor. I can recall Nardi hitting big shots. I can recall myself hitting big shots. Kurt making, and it just seemed like everyone was starting to settle.
Mm-hmm.
Even with your injuries and everything that was going on, but it seemed like you were starting to settle, where it was like, all right, I know I'm not going to be a one and done because of my knees.
Mm-hmm.
I know that my sophomore year, I got to prove myself. So I don't think it's just going to take this year, because basically the guards do everything.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can just do everything I need to do this year and next year, maybe the end of my junior year, if I'm not injured or something, then maybe I could be a pro on my senior year, whatever. I think that's how you looked at it. Me personally, I thought me and you were going to be one and dones.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that for Allen and Kurt, it was going to take a little bit more time.
Mm-hmm.
But once the scandal and everything hit, it kind of set us back mentally, not physically. Everything that happened, because we were worried about, just at that time, our sophomore year, just trying to survive.
Right.
With guys being suspended in the freshman year, with guys being suspended, just trying to survive a Big East season. Not to we didn't want to embarrass not just the university or the program, but our families.
Right.
Anymore. So I think it was more mental for us. That's why it took us, an extra 18 months to develop into what we became. But I think it was the end of our sophomore year when we beat Seton Hall. Then the next game, I remember you going crazy on Providence. We beat Providence. I think I had 20, and I think you had a huge game against Providence. That's the highlights I have of passing to you and you dunking the ball. And I just remember going into that offseason. I remember me and Chris Charles went to like Holland, Amsterdam on this travel team. And I just remember going over there. And I remember every single time they were like giving me the ball, like, here, go. And it was like all D1 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I ended up averaging probably like 28 points.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of the dudes on the team was calling me Kobe.
Right.
And they were calling Chris Charles Shaq.
Yeah.
Because we were teammates in college at Villanova. Then we went over there and we were arguing and fighting every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I played at Nova, I was more of a, I would score when I had to, but I would distribute the ball.
Right.
But when I went over there on that traveling team, I was shooting the ball every single time, because I had a conversation with Coach Wright. And then he said, don't defer to no one.
Right.
Freddie Hill, don't defer to no one. You are the best player. And so I would shoot the ball every time we went overseas.
Yeah.
Every single time. And then I just remember coming back, and I was just a different person. And I just remember us playing, and I remember everyone like, yo, we got to get to the tournament. We got to get to the tournament. What do we have to do to get into the NCAA tournament? And I remember Mikey Claxton, man, we got to, if we get 20, he's like, I'm telling you, if we get plus 20 wins, we're in. And I could just remember like not playing for anything but wins. Like the numbers will like add up. And I was having a good year, averaging like 14 to 15 points, rebounds and assists, but nothing mattered. Only, number that mattered was the W at the end. And I remember my freshman year, only thing that would matter, it was my PTS, my points. And then my sophomore year, I didn't want to be embarrassed. So I just was like out there playing like, oh my God, like just don't want to get blown out. And then I remember my junior year playing, and the only thing that mattered my junior and senior year was if Villanova won as a team. That's all that mattered. And I can feel it turning my end of my sophomore year, which is just like, yo, we don't do something like right now in junior year, Like, we're going to be a bust. We're number one class. This is going to probably be the worst recruiting class in history because I'm not living up to the hype. Alan's not living up to the hype. Kurt's not living up to the hype. And Jay's hurt, and he's not living up to the hype.
Yeah, I wasn't living up to it.
Someone has to do something.
Right.
And so I kind of took that with you being hurt and with Kurt getting hurt. Me and Alan kind of like looked at each other like, yo, we have to do something. Like, they're down. This is the class that was supposed to turn it around.
Right.
We have to do something. And I just think that the one thing we did, as upperclassmen, was just not give in to any adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember clear as day when you would get hurt or Kurt would get hurt, you were like, don't worry about me. Like, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I can remember those conversations. Like, you guys could go down and I can go over there and I could tell, like, from the look on your face, like when you got hurt at Providence.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we were roommates.
Yeah.
And we were on the plane, right? And we take off, and then the plane loses power. We're over the Atlantic Ocean, and the plane lost power. Loses power. We make it back to the runway, and I can remember you being having your hand like in a brace, something that Jack Pierce made up. You could have your hand in a brace, and I can remember you going to you're laying down. They like, we're leaving at 7 a.m. We get like 4 hours of sleep. Leaving at 7 a.m. And I remember you sleeping and the alarm clock going off. And I'm like, Jay, get up, get up, get up, get up. And you lay back down. You know you love to sleep. You lay back down and I pull your hand. And when I pulled your hand, like to tell you to come on, you woke up like, ah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, Jay's hurt again.
Yeah.
Because I barely pulled your hand.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I barely pulled your hand and you looked up at me like, ah. And I looked and I was like, yo, we're getting ready to go back and play Georgetown. Jay's not playing. And you just started like playing. I think you had a crazy game.
Yeah, I just started turning the corner.
Just started turning the corner. Like and you broke your hand. And I could just remember that. And it just was like, all right, he's our best big man. At that point, you were our best big man. And it's just like, yo, our center just broke his hand. And it's like, what do we do?
Right.
And I can remember like you just saying, come on, like just your attitude, just your approach, just your positivity was always something that just gave me that extra push. Like I can remember playing sometime and you know how Coach Wright sub, and I would be so tired, right? And I would look over there and I would see like you cheering hard. I would see Kurt. I just would see people who, going through adversity. And I'm like, the only adversity I'm going through right now is I'm a little fatigued and I'm a little winded. Mm-hmm. And I can remember like bending over and I look over at you guys and I can remember just having like life and just going to get it done. And like I never would say that to no one, but like you guys like going through adversity and dealing with it like men when you were like 19, 20 years old and not even understanding at that time that your professional career at the college was on the line from your injuries, but just dealing with it like men. That was amazing to me. And that's something that, in life you can take with you. Forget, the wins, the losses, the trophies, the money and all that. Just seeing people deal with that real life adversity, like that, handling it like men at 19, 20, 21 years old. That's just, I don't know. That's amazing to watch as a young man.
It's interesting you say that because I never thought of it that way. And I remember those moments that you're talking about. I remember you, because we played small, and a lot of times you had to guard the forward. So when people don't realize, when you got to bang, that thing take a lot out of you just from the defensive part alone. Forget about offense. And seeing you battle, and I remember you being exhausted. And I remember your chest, because you got a big, people can't see, you got big shoulders, and you got a big chest. And you up there breathing and panting. I remember you looking over, and I'm like, yo, come on, let's go. And it's interesting. It's cool to hear what you were thinking. So you moved on there.
I remember, like you said, like when, like, and I had, when Coach Wright said to me, when Kurt went down, you were still playing, but we were playing Florida, and he was like, you're playing the 4. And I think you were at the 5. You had a crazy game.
Yeah. It was a big game.
Yeah, like 20 or 13.
Yeah, it was like a 25-14.
And he was like, I'm gonna play you alongside of Jay. He said, Allen, Mike, Cal, Randy's gonna block out. His man don't get it. If he don't get it, his man don't get it. Y'all come in and rebound.
Right.
Randy, when they're trying to crash in, you face guard them and just, he was like, you're strong enough to hold them off.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, just don't let them get the offensive rebound. And I remember all of those little drills we used to do. We used to circle around, and then your man would come in full speed, and you had to block him out.
Yeah.
And I can remember, bro, us doing that. And I can remember playing against Florida our junior year, and those guys coming in hard like that. And I'm turning around and I'm standing them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, all these weights, all of this bench pressing, everything is starting to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see Allen fly in and get the rebound. I could see you get the rebound. And it was cool to see it because I was like, so the big man got to run baseline to baseline. The guard has to run like free throw line to free throw line. But the guard ain't really banging. We're using our speed, but we're not really.
Right.
They're down there hustling. They basically down there wrestling and then got to sprint the whole court. Like, he gave me a newfound respect for the condition, the type of shape the bigs had to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when he put me there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like come down, and I would set a pick and roll and then get the ball back. And then I would have to ISO dribble and make a play. And then I would have to run back on defense and then hold somebody off. And then they'll keep giving me the ball. And I was like, whoo. And the situations and just, thinking about it, when you guys used to be like, come on, Rand, like, we need you. And when y'all would say that, would give me so much energy. Just knowing that my teammates
was definitely a good time.
Basically had that much trust to like just give me the ball and just like, as basically saying like, as you go, we go. And I couldn't, like, I would be tired, but I just like, I'm going.
Yeah, man. That was a real good time, man. Real good times. So we move on. I remember we had our senior banquet. The draft happened, 7th pick. I think it was Boston had drafted you and traded you immediately to Minnesota, correct?
Boston drafted me and immediately traded me to Portland. Then Portland and Minnesota worked out the trade.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you're in Minnesota, and they're looking at you as their future guard, and you have KG. Do you have any KG stories or experience? Like, what was it like seeing his intensity in practice, night in, night out, playing with him?
Like, I say this, like, every time I do an interview and people ask me about how was it playing with Kevin Garnett. Like, KG, he changed my whole perspective of what it was supposed to look like every single day to be a professional basketball player. Like, just my outlook on, clocking in, practices at 11. I'm showing up like at 9:15, stretching, lifting weights, getting extra shots. And by the time we hit the court, he already on the court going hard. And it's just like me, like, who am I, to show up 20 minutes before practice if this dude has been in the league for 12 years, is doing this day in and day out. And it wasn't fake. Did it the whole season. Win, lose, or draw. Good game or bad game. He was clocking in and he was going hard. And that's one thing that I took from, I wish he would have stayed. He got traded the next summer. But that's one thing that I took from him. It's just that work ethic, that passion every single day. And I express my passion differently than him. But that's one thing that, I can always, tip my hat to KG and say, that dude worked. Like, that dude would be in there in a full sweat in the middle of summer pickup, showing on pick and rolls, contesting shots, dunking on people, hitting jumpers, dribbling the full length of the floor. He's in playoff shape, championship shape. And I would say August 15th. And that's something that I always took with me. I always loved to lift weights, always loved to work out. Like, my whole summer was, just based on, whatever I was dealing with, whatever injuries, to get that right, and then working out. Like, my whole day was based around my workouts. Somebody asked me to do something, and I'll be like, I gotta get my work in first. I'll get my work in first and then see what they had to do. And I remember KG, me and Craig Smith was at a Holiday gas station
Right.
in Minneapolis, and I knew something was about to happen because KG called and was like, no matter what, always bring it every single day. No matter what happened with me, like bring it every single day. And me and Craig was like, man, what's going on?
Right.
Like, no matter what. And then like 2-3 weeks later, that's when it all went down when he went to Boston. But he was like, no matter what, bring it every day.
Mm-hmm. And you had an interesting career outside of your successes in terms of the people you play with. So you go from KG, then you go to the Wizards when they had Gil, Karan Butler, and Antoine Jameson, right?
Yeah.
How was it playing with Gilbert Arenas to play? So here it is, you were a big man. That's so intense. Then you go to Gilbert Arenas, who will come at your neck. You know, how was that?
He was a monster, man. And it's like a lot of like, because when I get on the court, if someone scoring me, I don't care. They scored. Right. But the one thing I noticed from anybody who's supposed to be, or that they are an all-star or had any success in the league, I'm sitting back, like I said before, like I'm trying to what is making him successful?
Right.
Like what do he do every single day to make him successful? And the one thing I have learned from, if it was from KG to Gilbert Arenas to Blake Griffin to Chris Paul to KD to Russell Westbrook to all of those like top guys, was work ethic. Injuries occur, but just their work ethic, working through injuries, working through tendonitis, working through all type of injuries, playing through different stuff. What separated a lot of the guys that I played with was just work ethic and determined to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And they made every single individual around them in their own way better.
Cool. And then, so you go from there, and you mentioned Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, but what I want to talk about is, so you was at the Clippers as a vet, because Chris Paul's younger, but he was still established, he's 26 at the time, and you go to Utah. Then I see you in Denver because I'm with the Phoenix Suns coaching, and I remember going in the scouting report. You guys had Jameer Nelson that year, right?
Yeah, we had Jameer.
And so I remember it was Jameer, and I'm trying to remember the second player. So I remember we were preparing to play against Jameer. And who was the other scorer on the team, like the main
scorer? It was Gary Harris. It was Will Barton. I was coming off the bench.
Yeah,
so
I remember.
It was Jameer. So I was backing up at 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like Jameer and Gary Harris.
So we're talking about them. And then it was like, all right, and Randy Foye, veteran, he does this, does that. And I remember, you get the scout report looking, and I remember saying, we better pay attention. We better pay attention because everyone's like a pro. And I know you personally. And then also, I'm a little biased, right? Yeah. So I'm like, no, listen, guys, I think we need to lock in. And at the time, I didn't play. I didn't have like 10-year career behind me. I wasn't coaching in college forever. So it kind of was like, all right, young man. All right, Rook. All right, we hear you.
All right, Rook,
trust
we
me.
got you.
This is what we got to lock in on. And then we played the game. We hit us up for 30, right?
It was like, I think it was like 30 plus.
Yeah.
So I remember that game. It was like that season. I tore a ligament, like a tendon. I think I tore a tendon. Like it was like halfway torn on my right knee.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember that year. That was year 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember that summer. I had an awesome summer. And I could just remember like, all right, here we go. And I remember getting hurt, and I just started trying to come back. And they started playing me, and then they started playing me even more because they were trying to trade me.
Right.
And as basically, trying to get my body strong, trying to get my legs under me. Jameer's playing really well. The team was playing really well, and you guys were good. Earl was doing a great job. And as I'm trying to get my legs under me, he just said, "All right, something happened to Jameer." He's like, "Randy, you're starting point." And I was like, "Oh, all right." And my whole thing was, if I hit my first shot, I'm on fire.
Right.
So I can remember hitting like a three that like bounced up in the air. And then I can remember, because I was Eric Bledsoe's, I was his vet when he was in the Clippers. I was 6 years in as his first year. And he was like, "Oh, I see," because they know I can shoot.
Right.
Like everyone in the league know I can shoot. So he was like, "Oh, I see what you want tonight."
Right.
Like, and then I started taking it to the basket, like doing crazy stuff. And then I just was like, "All right, I finally got my legs under me." And I can tell by the way I was shooting the ball. And when the ball would come, I just would catch it in the pocket and just release. And I was like, I finally got my legs. And then they put like Ronnie Price on me. They had PJ Tucker. But I know once I get into that mode or once I get into that feeling, it don't matter like who it is because I can shoot and I can dribble.
And you're not, and you're strong.
Once I started hitting shots like that, I knew it was over.
Yeah. And that was.
But then I remember coming up to you after the game and you gave me that look like, and gave me
a hug.
Good job.
Because on one end, obviously you want to win, but I admit it. I'm a homer. I'm a homeboy. I'm a homie. I'm a homer when it comes to mine. And especially you had the Villanova connection that we had before Nova. And I felt good. It was, you know what? It's the best I felt after a loss in my life.
Yeah. I could tell you felt good because you looked at me and you was like mad walking up, and then you gave me a hug like you loved it, and then you walked away mad, and then we laughed about it. I was like, "We'll tell you, I'm blessing them guys." That you was like, "Oh, they're gonna be there after the game." And they came up to me the game, but it was like I said, I can tell, like the way I'm wired, right? I can tell, like what it's gonna be like before the game if I continue to stay locked in and play hard and be aggressive. I can tell what it's going to be during the game from the beginning. And I guess that's just being a pro, being around a long time, being seasoned, whatever that may be. I can tell right before the game what it was going to be.
That was good, man. And, and that's a good moment. And you just never know what life throws because I would have thought, if anything, we play against each other in the league or play on the same team. And long and beheld, we both made it to the league, just different ways. You were playing, I was on the coaching side. And one of my favorite moments of the time when I was with the Suns was when you were with the Nets. And way before the warm-ups officially started, we chopped it up for a little bit on the bench. And it was just good. And you was back in Jersey, was back home, we on the East Coast. It was good. That's one of my favorite moments,
Yeah, I think I came out because even I just treated everything like Villanova. Like even being, I think at that time I was 11. I was 11 years in at that time. I would always try to get out first. I would always try to get my work out the way, where I can go in the back and chill. And I can remember that game, just going out there to work. And then I saw you had a little break, and then I had like a little time, and we just sat there and talked for 20 minutes. And for people who don't know, you never get that time before a game. You never, if you get there to the arena 2 hours and 45 minutes before, you never have a 20-minute gap where you could just sit there and talk. It's all work. You going to the training table to get worked on, you getting tape, you watching film, you getting a quick bite, you coming back to the training table, you just making sure everything is on time and on the schedule to the T. And for us to get that time, it's just a beautiful thing because like you said, if I would have thought that anybody was going to make the NBA out of all of us, if they would have said this out when I was 17 years old, going into Villanova, 18 years old, I'm like Jay Fraser. And then they would have said, "Who's next?" I would have said, probably Curtis Sumter. And then me and Alan do what we supposed to do. We right there. Like I would have never guessed. Like I was humble and had so much swag at the same time, but just me, going that high. It just was all based off, just playing hard, playing Villanova basketball, and my teammates trusting me. and just God-given ability, being able to jump and play at a high level where I can guard so many people. It just was, like I said, man, it just was, a blessing to play with you guys, because you've seen adversity, you've seen good days, you've seen bad days, you've seen coach upset, you've seen coach happy, you've seen so much go on in our little circle that basically molded us and shaped us into what we are, not just as basketball players, but were as as men. And to just make it there, it didn't felt like, it was like I did, like the program did this. When I made it and I got drafted that high, it wasn't about me. It was about the program. It was like we came in and we were like, it was a good program. They had good tradition, but they were struggling and they needed a class like us. And so just to turn that around, Big East champions, Big East Player of the Year, first team, second team, third team, Big East, all this
All-American,
Coach of the Year, first team All-American, since all of that, all the accolades, and then to get drafted, that moment was like look, Villanova is back. And it started with our class. And it goes from us four to Baker and Mikey. And then we just, after that, we just stopped it. We said enough is enough. Like, we're not losing no more. Like, we're winning.
Yeah.
And if you look at Villanova, what Villanova is now, that's us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I take pride in it. I know Cal takes pride in it. I know Allen, Kurt, I know you, I know Mikey, I know Baker. Like, that is us. When they're winning national championships and they're saying play Villanova basketball, that is us. Because without us laying that foundation, under Coach Wright from the beginning, those young guys that have came in to the program, they wouldn't have no direction to what it takes or what it looks like. We had to look on the outside at Speedy Claxton's to see what a Villanova basketball player is supposed to look like from TV. They watched us. Scotty watched me, Kyle, Allen, Kurt. Other players watch Scotty, and it keeps going. It keeps turning over from Malik Waynes. And then you look at Arch, then you look at Jalen, and it just keeps turning over because of the foundation that our class laid under Coach Wright.
Yeah, and I was proud last night watching Sadiq, and then beforehand, like you said, Mikal and Jalen was in there, Arches in there, Dante. Just beautiful. So let's, I want to finish off with this. You mentioned how Coach Wright tells us about, because I remember he starts to say, guys, yes, we're here for basketball, but I'm trying to make you more than I'm trying to make you men. And tell everyone about all the work you have done off the court with the Randy Foye Foundation and everything else. Like, what, bring everybody up to speed of some of the stuff you've done and what you're doing now.
So right now, to be honest with you, I'm a husband and a dad first, right? I'm a Christian, like you are. See, kids are yelling now.
Perfectly timed.
I'm a husband and I'm a dad first. God, husband, dad first, right? And my whole mission in life was to always, help others and give back, right? So that's why I started the Randy Foye Foundation, because people that I didn't know and that, I probably couldn't trust, they gave to me when they didn't have to. So that's why I always wanted to give back. I always wanted to help others. And I was extremely blessed to make a lot of money playing basketball. And I never take anything for granted. My heart, I have a big heart. I love people. I take care of people. But my main mission is always to give back. And I think that's an unbelievable benefit to have as a young African American male, because we're taught so many times to just receive and hold on to it and not give back, or receive and spend on things that we don't need.
Right.
So
right.
I think my mission in life was always, you know, the way wired, the way my heart is, was always to give back. And if you look at the way I play the game, you look at the way if someone's going through something, how I approach them. You look at the way when Cal came in and he was, you know, all over the place in the beginning. And I was kind of that guy that was like, you know, put my arm around him and say, listen, like, you my brother. Like, this is how you got to do it. Especially here. He's not going to let you get away. And that's just me, my way of giving. My way of giving, you know, charity and all this other different. It's just, I'm just that's just me.
Right.
You know, so whatever I can do to help others, that's what I do. But I'm, like I said, I'm extremely blessed. I owe, you know, a lot of it to you guys. I owe a lot of it to, you know, Coach Wright. But more than anything, I owe it to my family in Jersey, Nova, just all you guys. You helped me become who I am.
And I always remember, you know, God bless her soul, your grandma. Grandma was so special.
Yeah.
Remember that. Grandma was so special, and then set that foundation. And, you know, like you said, I think we were real unique as a class because you literally had all good, hard.
Different personalities.
Yeah.
It was like, it was you. Like, I was the quiet, I was like the quiet killer. Alan was the funny killer. You were the emotional killer, and Kurt was the pretty boy. The love boy. So it was like we all were the same,
right?
But we all had different missions that made us different. That we never crossed into the other person's lane. Like if Al had a good game, we were happy for him. If he had a good game, we was happy for you. If Kurt had a good game, was happy for you. And if I had a good game, it seemed like everybody was happy. Yeah, so it's just like we all were different. And it helped us become the people, basically the basketball player and the people that we are today. And
like I said, and you're still very humble and modest because you know, you have done so much. I remember when the Hurricanes when Puerto Rico went through that devastation.
You did your homework.
Say it again?
You did your homework, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I remember. Well, we talk. Yeah. You don't remember? We talk all the time. So I remember.
My wife is Puerto Rican. So the town that her family, her dad is from, it's called Todo Negro. It was hit hard, and so as it was hit hard, like it's a rural area. So, you know, you don't, to those places, you don't send food or clothes.
Right.
You know, it's not. You send to those areas, you need to send generators. And as we know, generators aren't cheap. So I just figured out it was some people who, it was like one lady, I think it was her aunt, her great aunt or her aunt. I'm sorry if I'm not getting this right, but she had skin cancer and the medicine that she needed to be refrigerated. And it was no electric. So that's when we start, like, what can we do? And like a lot of people, other people were sending food, you know, diapers, toilet paper. And I was like, what can I do? And she was like, let's just send generators. And so I called a few of my good friends and I was like, listen, I'm gonna put up, you know, 10K and the goal was 25K. And we put the 10K up and then the other donations just poured in. And I was like, wow, it was like quick. And I think we ended up getting, I would say, like 60 generators out to them.
You did some big work,
like,
man.
Yeah, like within like, we got 60 generators out there like within like 6 days.
Yeah. And not a word mentioned. There was no publication. And I remember speaking to you. You didn't want anyone to know. You know, you was like,
I didn't say nothing.
I think that was kind of like your condition. Like, I'm gonna do this. Don't go broadcasting it. You know, and I think that speaks to your character. And you know me, I'm not those other people. I got years of equity in our friendship, so I can go off and be like,
yeah. Like, and I do a ton of stuff. Like, I do a ton of stuff where I like help people and never say nothing. Like kind of like a secret Santa type of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you'll see something. Like I'm the type of person, right? If I go into, and you know it for a fact, I go into a supermarket and I see a mother with multiple kids buying food, and I'll just come up to her and be like, hey, you know, like I'll pay for your groceries.
Right.
And that's just me, because I know how hard it can be, because growing up with a grandmother who didn't have it and didn't have food a lot of the time, I know if I did that for her and she could use that $200 to do something else, a light bill or a phone bill or a cable bill or wash clothes or, get some, public transportation, I know that goes a long way. I know,
Yes.
$100 in, the hood is stretched. So that's the type of person I am, man. And that's why I started the Randy Foye Foundation, to help, people that was in harm's way, that was in need.
And those who are hearing, I encourage you, this is me speaking, I personally encourage you to look up the Randy Foye Foundation and
RandyFoye.org.
RandyFoye.org.
RandyFoyeFoundation.org.
Say it again for them.
RandyFoyeFoundation.org.
There we go. So you know where to find it. Look up, become a partner, become a friend, become associate. Let's all work together as this peer organization has been helping numerous kids. And it's not just a one-time gifting thing. I've seen the organization kids and follow them throughout school years, through graduation, and the kids cry and talk about how they have a future now because of the help of the organization. Rand, we thank you. Blueblood on the Mainline, thank you for joining us. It was great chopping it up and catching back on old times. You and I are always going to be talking. We end one way only. That's the Villanova way. You know what we say? Once a cat,
always a cat.
Later.
Once a wildcat, always a wildcat, baby.
All right, brother. Take care. God bless you.